Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a best of 5 series. That's the finals of the ESL Open Cup for the South Korean server. This is the 223rd edition of this weekly tournament. Isn't that insane? It's been quite a while. Anyways, game number 1 is best of 5. We find ourselves on a map post-Youth. Now for the South Korean server, a finals, a Zerg versus Protoss, who do you think is going to be playing? Well, first off, as I accidentally move my mouse, with the blue Protoss pieces in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have none other than herO. And generally speaking, in these weekly tournaments, it should be Dark, playing with the red Zerg drones. But that's not quite the case. We're looking at none other than Reynor's main base. Reynor currently over in South Korea to play in the GSL Codes. Should be a lot of fun. Apparently, he's also decided to play in some of these, well, quote-unquote smaller online cups, although there's tons of them to play. So if you're a pro gamer, right, if you're really good at the game, you win a couple here, you win a couple there, it's still definitely nothing to scoff at. Plus, of course, you do get to play against some of the best players in the world, and that, well, should be considered pretty decent practice, I would imagine. What is going on here, by the way? Hold up right now. This is not an expansion I've seen Zerg players take, actually not just Zerg players, I don't think I've seen anybody play this as their very first expansion. So post-Youth is certainly the strangest map as far as expansion patterns go. First off, you have that in-base expansion, the one that herO has just taken here as well. There's 3 golden mineral fields, 3 blue mineral fields, right? That's already very strange. This entire main base layout is weird. There's a skinny little ramp over here. There's some pushes actually that are viable. I've seen some crazy games lately where a Terran player, I don't really want to spoil too many matches because maybe at some point I'll be casting those games too, but I saw a Terran player drop a mule to try and mine out these mineral fields really quickly and basically create an extra opening into, at the time, the Protoss player's base, which is actually really neat because obviously, yeah, you can send a mule from anywhere as long as you have vision. I've also likewise seen a bunch of Zerg players bring a few drones towards the other side of the map to try and create an extra opening. So anyways, that's interesting. Usually though, on this particular map, you either go for this base as your very first expansion, or you can go for another gold base that's a little bit further out that has 6 golden mineral fields. And that seems to be quite popular. Okay, especially for Zerg players, because when you take this base as your very first expansion, it also allows you to start spreading creep over here, right? And you can get creep up to this high ground very nicely, and usually that makes defensive play a little bit more manageable. Now, Reynor has decided to go for, I guess, what we call the natural expansion as his very first base. And I guess that means that he's leaving that in-base expansion as like a little piggy bank that he can smash at any point in the future. I'm not sure if I like it, but I guess we'll find out together if it is going to be any good. Ooh, herO. Okay, feeling a little bit cheeky. He hasn't scouted here whatsoever. So completely oblivious as to what the Zerg player is going for. He has decided to just go for a 2-base, I guess, Zealot all-in? How many gateways are we gonna make? I think he should probably make, yeah, so here's what he's done, right? He's only on 31 probes. He's mined just enough gas to make charge and to get the Twilight Council and the robo facilities. I think from here, we're just gonna make Zealots. A 31. Usually it's a 32 probe all-in, but I guess with these golden mineral fields, you don't really need... You could have probably gotten away with a little bit less, actually. I think 30, maybe 29 workers would have been fine. Very interesting. Very cheeky. Anyways, I think we're just gonna see a mass Zealot all-in. Love this fake down towards the low ground. herO's not planning on making an expansion there. Ooh. Well, this could be a disaster. Reynor, if you end up scouting this, you will actually have a little bit of time to prepare. Luckily right now here, by the way, herO is going to be sitting at 29 workers. So I think at this point, yeah, Reynor picks up on... How did this just happen? How did that stop? herO, don't tell me you all army hotkeyed, okay? That Stalker was supposed to be on hold position. There was like 1 adept and a Stalker out at that stage in the game. Well, now Reynor knows exactly what he's playing against. Usually the real strength of this attack, though, as we do already have a bunch of Zealots on the other side of the map, is the fact that Zerg is sitting at like 40-something drones. Reynor right now at, well, quote-unquote only 38. I wonder if that's still considered over-droning. I think it might actually still just be overdroning. He's so lucky he managed to get those lings in. But this is still going to be a tough hold. Oh my god, imagine though if those Zerglings did not just get in and Reynor did like an extra round of workers. He would be in a world of trouble. Prism finally available too. Surprisingly sloppy execution here from the Protoss player. But he's gonna have to deal damage, okay? Like, just killing a base alone is not even quite enough, I don't think. How many gateways do we have? We got 7 gates in total. He was briefly considering going up to 9. But I guess now that he lost a bunch of probes, he's glad that he did not make that call. Yeah, Zealots still hit very hard. It's funny because roaches without speed, even on creep, have a pretty hard time kiting against this sort of stuff. Such a cheeky way to start the series. Look at this. If you're a Protoss player on the ladder, by the way, and you struggle against Zerg, this is one of those builds that is never the most popular build, because it's relatively easy to counter, but because it is so uncommon, Zerg players at the pro level die to it all the time, and I think a lot of ladder heroes will also find that they will, well, lose to it all the time. I've lost to this build many, many times as Zerg myself. It is one of the easiest to execute builds because you don't have to worry about like Stalker, Blink Stalker Micro or anything like that. You just basically warp in a bunch of Zealots and you just send them around the map. Yeah, and apparently even if you do get scouted and Zerg plays a very clean early game, all things considered, you can still deal a tremendous amount of damage. Ay, 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 what a way to start this finals. Well then, that takes us to Golden Aura. Golden Aura usually, emphasis on the word usually, a much more defensive map. You get that nice tucked away expansion over here, you get a base over on the left side too that is quite difficult to attack into. But clearly herO means, yeah, he means war today. I like that he did all of that, by the way, without scouting whatsoever. I wonder if he's gonna do a scoutless opener once more. Obviously you can be in a lot of trouble, but I guess... Yeah, I guess actually on post-youth, you're relatively safe because you can just wall the high ground, right? So if you wall this section of the map, you can, well, on post-youth kind of make another base over there because there's a mineral line in that location. It worked out quite nicely for him. Okay, well, this time around, we are going to be sending a scouting worker in. Obviously, though, if you do want to go for like a 7 or an 8 gate Zealot all-in, not scouting is going to make the push hit harder because it is one of those things that we don't really talk about very much, but scouting in StarCraft 2 can be quite pricey. At this point in the game, this is like 5% of herO's economy, right? That he is sending across the map. And it doesn't really sound super significant. Are we gonna fake a cannon rush? Really? Oh my god, herO! herO's faking a cannon rush. There's no way. I think Reynor is calling the bluff. But the thing is, at this point, there's no Overlord on the other side of the map yet to reveal that this is indeed a, well, gateway opener. He's walling himself in fully. What are we doing? Okay, he does cancel the pylon here at the last possible second. Reynor sees it, sends the drones back into the main base. I think Reynor can appreciate this sort of playstyle, okay? It's frustrating to go up against, but it's also very different than the way that the European Protoss players play, right? When's the last time you've seen Showtime go for like a 7-gate charge all-in or a fake cannon rush, right? When's the last time you've seen Max Specs do that? Maybe slightly more likely to, yeah, pull off a trick like that than Showtime, but still, it's not really something that the European players like to mix in, and, well, I can imagine that Reynor is considering this at the bare minimum pretty good practice. Okay, drones are going to be pulled off at exactly 100. That will allow him the metabolic boost research, so those Zerglings are going to be nice and fast. Walling yourself in fully, by the way, is weird, because this means that he can't get a probe out. So usually you go for like a 3 minute and 45-ish second, unless there's like a gap over here on the left side, maybe? No, I don't think so. Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, unless you want to go for like, if you want to go for a Stargate opener, you can't take a third base with this, is what I'm trying to get at, right? So you have to go for a robo facility and make a warp prism in order to actually get that probe out. Alternatively, you can use that scouting worker to build the nexus, but then warping in reinforcements is gonna get very, very tricky, because you'll have to destroy one of your own pylons. So, as a Reynor here, already, by seeing a full wall off, alarm bells are gonna start going off. Because, why would Protoss ever do that? It has to be a robo facility play, almost every single time. Either that, or Protoss Did he? No. herO. herO, did you make a mistake? There's no way you made this as... No. That probe is just faking it for us. I think he's faking it for Reynor as well, for what it's worth. Reynor right now sees this. Well, he must have had a glimpse of that probe at the very least, going back and forth there. It's a Dark Templar rush. So herO is going from a Zealot all-in in game number 1 to a Dark Templar all-in in game number 2. This should never work. Right? At this point, Reynor will see the lack of, well, any sort of Oracle too. Usually you would have seen one by now, and that's why he's decided to skip the Spore Crawlers. The thing is, Spore Crawlers are still detectors too, right? So they're good against Skytles in the earlier stages of the game, but they're also really good at countering Dark Templar because you do need to have vision. This is unlikely to be a start for the Zerg where he goes for a quick lair, and he definitely will not have a lair done here in time to deal with any warped in Dark Templar. So Prism is gonna be... Are we faking a third base once more? Yeah, Reynor right now reveals this too. Only a handful of workers, by the way, in total. What in the world are these builds here from herO? Spore Crawler coming up. Okay, I like that a lot. It's very easy to forget about making, well, any sort of detection. And obviously after that previous game, Reynor may just be making the assumption that this is a similar build once more. Honestly, I'm not even sure that killing the third hatchery is going to really be a massive advantage here for herO. I think that's pretty much the bare minimum. Lair is probably going to start up. He's going Shadow Strike. He's going Shadow Strike on the back of this. Dark Templar are going to try and kill the base. They should be able to. We do have some transfusion energy, but he's not going to waste it. Fair enough. More Dark Templar are coming up inside of the main base too, together with a Zealot. This guy pretends to have a cape. It's an invisibility cloak, just like the Harry Potter one. Okay, body blocking right here with the drones and the roaches to try and get that, well, Spore to finish, and I think ultimately all of this will be okay. Lair starts up, Queens are gonna get a transfusion, recall is gonna be used on at least some units. What just got recalled? Hold up, what just got recalled? We saw a recall here. Am I crazy? Maybe it was trying to recall these Dark Templar or something like that. What are we recalling? Ah, yeah, he tried recalling those Dark Templar. That was really ambitious, herO. How in the world did you think that was gonna play out? Anyways, I guess he had the ability available. Oh, battery overcharge, little Stalker, really? Is that what we need? I guess we're buying a load of time. You know what? You know what? That Stalker, my god. He's got some stories to tell. Literally 2 HP. But he did end up, yeah, staying alive. Okay. So, Shadow Strike, by the way, is the Blink upgrade for the Dark Templar. It is simultaneously one of the best, but also one of the worst upgrades in the entire game. Yeah, it's very slow to research, so it's relatively cheap. But it's just, it takes forever. It takes like 2 minutes before that upgrade finishes. At least that's, you know, what it feels like. So, Reynor at this point should feel pretty comfortable. He knows that Protoss is not gonna have an easy push from here. The main push, I guess, that you can go for is a charge slot all-in, right? Basically a similar build, but then delayed from what we saw in the previous game. So you would go charge slot together with a bunch of Archons and maybe a few Dark Templar. But since Reynor had an Overlord inside of the main base there for a while, he knows that that is unlikely to be coming up. So he's decided to play this relatively safely. Here come the Dark Templar again. Now they reveal that they can pop Queens in basically a heartbeat. But that does not justify that research. So now we're going +1 with Blink. Okay, so we're just playing a macro game now. Is that what we're doing? Well, that means that the ball is in Reynor's court. He gets to do whatever he likes here for the next few minutes. Because Protoss, yeah, has played himself into a corner here. If Zerg leaves him alone for a few minutes, sure, herO is going to be pretty happy about it, but at this point, that third base pretty much becomes a necessity. I like this overall, though, here from herO, just playing the obnoxious Protoss style, right? Trying to be as annoying as possible. If we could have seen the Spire, that would have been amazing, but I don't think he had a glimpse of that. You have to really respect mutas. If suddenly a dozen mutas show up and you're going, well, Twilight Council into Robo facility, you will generally not have a ton of anti-air. Best case scenario usually against Mutas is that you have already a Stargate, so you can make a few Phoenixes, for example, but that will not be the case. Double upgrades, by the way, from herO, so he really is just trying to go into that mass Blink Stalker army here eventually. Reynor doesn't really feel safe to, well, save up a whole lot of gas and make a bunch of Mutas all at the same time. Instead, he's decided to go for a bunch of Ravagers. He's got a load of money in the bank, by the way. Yeah, they have 10 more HP compared to what they used to have in the previous patch, so apparently it takes 2 biles. Dark Templar? I mean, getting a kill on a base here would be huge, but I don't think he should be able to get that. In the meantime, there's a few adepts in the natural expansion of the Zerg too, just trying to be a nuisance. Okay, I'm a little bit worried for when Reynor goes across the map. So the 9 Mutas here are coming. If Reynor could spend the leftover minerals that he's got right now on additional Mutas and Ravagers and all that, right? He makes a bunch of stuff. It's going to be very difficult for herO to hold. herO is actually expanding towards the 4th base, but I'm thinking Mutas in the main base, Mutas in the natural, and then the main army over here at the front, either on the left or on the right side. It's going to be super tough for herO to just even hold the Roach Ravager Ling Ball, leave alone, you know, let alone those Mutas in the fight as well. Do we have any sort of... No, we do not have any sort of defense in the main. No photon cannons safely set up. I don't think herO really has the money to go ahead and blindly make that, so I think Reynor needs to get a move on. He really could be pushing here. Okay, he will be pushing. I think he's respecting those Dark Templar quite a bit. The Stalkers are going to be targeted down. I kind of feel like we should have gone after the probes instead. But either way, this is serving as a massive, massive distraction, right? So those Stalkers are busy chasing a bunch of stuff. In the meantime, the Roach Ravager Ball over here is doing pretty well. Now, this is a tricky map. Yeah, there's a couple of really tight choke points. So this is what I was trying to mention earlier. Usually Golden Aura is quite defensive. And maybe that's the reason why herO decided to go for this build here on this map. But, ultimately, I don't really love this position. Look at the supply count here for herO, right? I don't really like this position for herO. He's decided to be the one who wants to be aggressive. I don't think that that is what you want to be doing here at all. I think if you're herO, what you need to do is sit back and play as passively as you can. Because there is no way that you're going to win with like 65 or so army supply versus 120 plus for the Zerg. It's the swarm right now. The floodgates have been opened. It's difficult for Reynor to find an angle. So, yeah, going up the ramp and stuff can be a bit sketchy. Muta's right now on the right side once more. In the meantime, it is a Baneling transition. +1 melee is going to finish up here in a moment too. Muta's still in the main base, trying to just kill however many probes as they can. Honestly, not the best Muta control. I've seen Reynor get a ton of value out of Mutas in the past. I mean, he still killed a lot of workers, don't get me wrong. I feel like overall, these Mutas have been countered relatively easily. Yeah, I guess 23 probes is 23 probes. I guess I'm maybe used to just seeing Protoss players lose their entire mineral line in like half a second. I think after that first game in this series too, Reynor is just playing it as safely as possible. Although the Baneling transition is a curious one for me, because I feel like Banelings, I mean, they're a great unit, don't get me wrong. But they're also literally hit or miss, right? You can very easily make a misstep with those Banes, at which point, yeah, the Zerg can just fall behind again. So, making a transition towards a Hive does make a lot of sense. I'm assuming at this point that Reynor is making the assumption that this will be a Disruptor transition. Not the case. Instead, what we have is High Templar on the horizon. Also not a bad choice, but maybe that explains why he wanted to go into a Hive, because I think Vipers here would be an excellent addition. Or I guess, well, just a couple Baneling roll-bys and maybe, yeah, maybe just the Adrenal Glands research. There it is. Yep, that's the plan. Just having the Hive is obviously very good. I mean, look at this army, though, from the Zerg. Still, though, if you compare this to where herO was at just about a minute or two ago, herO's army has really grown. And obviously, this is a high-tech army, too, so you have to respect it. herO, of course, has got some of the best Blink micro in the entire world, so... yeah, he's actually pushing this back. Muta's in the meantime. Okay, going around. There's been a lot of talk about this matchup lately. According to Zerg players. Oh my god, okay. According to Zerg players, this matchup is much harder now than it once used to be. Seems like the top level Zergs are assuming that this matchup is now quite favored for Protoss, but if I'm looking at this second game, this should be a landslide victory for Reynor. But look at those splits on the Stalkers, actually. I mean, there's just so many Banes. Yeah, there are so many Banelings just rolling through everything. And obviously those Mutas and those Banelings and the snipe on the Nexus just now. It has absolutely destroyed the economy here of herO. And I think ultimately Reynor is going to be able to win. But you can tell that he's playing this, maybe it's because of the map, but he's playing it incredibly cautiously. Alrighty, next up we find ourselves on the map Alcyone. Curious to see if herO is going to be playing a, what we consider to be a normal build in this particular series as well. Already, I mean, this is already weird, right? I don't really want to analyze the pylon positioning all too much. But for years now, Protoss players have been putting their pylons right over there. Because the issue is, when you put a pylon in the wall off, it's almost inviting the Zerg to build a Baneling nest and to just bust straight through a wall. Now, he is positioning this gateway 1 square forward. He actually repositioned it. Because I guess the idea is that he can still put another gateway or another 3x3 structure right behind it. So if he does end up scouting a Baneling nest early on, he can just re-wall this layer and he should be okay. But already, herO is being a little bit cheeky just with the pylon positioning alone. Not a huge deal. I don't think Reynor is really going to be enticed in general to go for a Baneling bust, but it is curious to put your most important and also weakest structure as part of the most exposed wall. Right? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense strategically when you can also be planting it over there. But I think a herO is just trying to be, yeah, he's just trying to be herO. There's such a thing as playing suboptimally, which works really well against humans, right? So this is maybe, compared to like the regular positioning of the pylon, it's maybe like 98% efficient, right? If we consider the pylon over here to be 100% efficient, this is maybe ever so slightly less efficient, but the differences for Protoss are absolutely tiny, and they may just bring some very big results from the Zerg as soon as Reynor ends up seeing it. Alrighty, so Cybercore is going to finish. What we consider to be normal, by the way, just to clarify, is a Stargate opener into 2 to 3 oracles, and then a Nexus at the 3rd base location at about 350. So you go double oracle, you go a bunch of adepts, you don't go for the warp gate research, and then you build a Stargate. Yes, okay, all of this is very normal. In the meantime, by the way, Reynor has decided to go for the 3rd base location as his very first expansion. He will be able to, well, secure that low ground here momentarily. At this level of play, generally speaking, taking this base as your first expo is not that big of a deal, although it can be kind of annoying against, for example, a Glaive Adept opener. The main advantage of taking your 3rd base early, yeah, exactly, is that you can start up your creep spread from this location too. So this actually makes a very significant difference if you are forced to put the tumor over here, or like, you know, this probably saves you a couple minutes of creep spread, right? And it really does add up over the course of a game. Could still be a Void Ray first. We've seen that quite a bit lately, but it should be an Oracle. Okay, it is gonna be an Oracle. This is going to be Adept into Stalker. Into another Adept, maybe? Yep. Makes a lot of sense. The first Adept on the other side of the map, committing pretty hard. Losing it would be bad, but he did end up getting 2 Zerglings for his troubles. You need to keep that Adept alive, mostly because it allows the 3rd base to be secured nice and easily. Alternatively, you can keep the Oracle at home early on. But I guess the Adept over here on the Warp, or on the Watchtower here will reveal that this is not going to be a mass amount of Zerglings. I think it's a relatively small group. So that should allow that Oracle to go across the map. Yeah, he's going to be using it for high ground vision instead. Assuming that Reynor is going to be good when it comes to defending against those Oracles at home. Queen count is growing. A little bit of a supply block right now for Reynor, because he ended up, of course, well, losing one of those OVs. We'll be able to continue macroing here in just a moment. And maybe killing that Overlord is actually more optimal than killing like 2 drones on the other side of the map. Okay, so this is very normal. Now, what do we consider to be a normal follow-up? And again, normal is basically determined by pro gamers, like, for example, herO. The most standard follow-up would be a Twilight Council together with a Forge into Blink, and then +1 ground weapons. It is already triple Oracle now. There's obviously a lot of changes that you can still make. But yeah, we're gonna see this 6 Adept control together with 3 Oracles. This is something that Zergs really need to respect. There's the Twilight Council, there's the Forge. Creep spread already looking really good, but there is a Revelation skill, of course. There it is. herO immediately throwing a wrench right here in that plan of Reynor early on, shutting down all of that creep spread. I mean, I think you can commit. Yeah, I was gonna say, this is not to be underestimated. Keep in mind that these Oracles are very powerful too. Not enough links currently available yet, and that is a load of Queens going down. Okay, loses one of the Oracles. That's a little bit unfortunate. Probably could have microed that ever so slightly differently. Oracles, hello. Okay, they were just standing there for a moment, but yeah, killing 2 Queens is decent. I think if we would have had a third one, it would have been quite a bit nicer. No energy for Pulsar Beam, so the 4th hatchery will be made. A lot of Zerglings, by the way, produced as well to try and, well, defend against those Adepts. But ultimately, this is a bit of an overproduction here by Reynor. So, despite the fact, right, that herO hasn't really killed any drones, economically he's still ahead because of the fact that he has forced out so many units and he's forcing the Zerg to rebuild a bunch of those Queens and whatnot too. So, despite the fact that literally 0 workers have died in this game so far, Protoss does have an economical advantage, which is pretty cool. That's what that Adept Oracle army really allows you. I think losing the 3rd Oracle was a bit unfortunate though for herO. We've seen a lot of value of those Oracles, especially when there are Blink Stalkers out. You can put Stasis Wards and stuff and make it difficult for the Zerg to continue chasing. Anyways, it is going to be a quick +1 missile here from Reynor, so no messing around with melee this time around, at least not yet, and then also the Roach speed research. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, very quick double Robo into Robo Bay. Okay. It could definitely be Colossi. It could also be Disruptors. We'll have to see exactly what the plan is for herO. Both are pretty powerful, but against a Roach-based army, since Roaches are armored units, and Colossi deal bonus damage against light, it does make more sense in my mind for this to be Disruptors. But honestly, even when you do have Colossi, right, they're a pretty big investment, they're quite expensive. Yeah, but they still deal a lot of supplemental damage, so it is going to be double Colossus production. Obviously, if you expect that this is going to be like a Roach Hydra transition, Colossi absolutely murder Hydralisks. If you think it might be Roachling Bane, also a very powerful unit composition. If you suspect it could be Swarm Host, could be. Colossi are much better against Swarm Host than any sort of Disruptor play would be. So there's the Hydra then coming up. I'm assuming this is for a Hive, by the way, but you never know. 5th hatchery coming up. Rogue obviously has been playing StarCraft 2 again, right? And he seems to really be favoring that Roach Hydra style. We haven't seen a lot of Colossus play in this matchup over the last year or so. But I wonder if maybe that is gonna create a bit of a comeback. Here's that Roach Ravager Bull though, and this is not to be underestimated. None of these Protoss units are particularly good against Roach Ravager, although the numbers may just be good enough. Yeah. Reynor doesn't have that much stuff, but it's a weird dynamic because if Reynor would have committed to like a 3-base or even a 4-base Roach Ravager max out, he could have been maxed out at this point, and I think he could overwhelm this Protoss army. If he wouldn't have gone for the Hive, he wouldn't have gone for the Hydra Den, if he wouldn't have spent his money on things that aren't Roach Ravager, I think just a straight Roach Ravager push could have absolutely overwhelmed this, because there's no sentries in the mix, there's no immortals here, there's no disruptor, there's none of that. Obviously, herO could start making disruptors as a response, but this is not quite as easy as herO makes it look, because I think on the ladder, if you play this exact build that herO is going for, you might just find yourself overwhelmed with a whole lot of Roach Ravager. Good movement here, though, by herO. I really like what he's doing. 4 Colossi, by the way. Vipers are coming up for Reynor. Expensive unit, but of course they can be used to abduct those Colossi into the Roach Ravager. Yeah, Zerg players seem to be playing this a lot more cautiously as of late, huh? See a lot of Zerg players just sort of darting in and testing the waters and then backing off again. Not really ready to dive too deep. This is apparently the opportunity, though, that Reynor is going to try and take. But upon seeing the blink back, the roaches on the left also once more retreat. herO just shows up with a unit that's technically not that great against roaches. But look at them dealing damage. Like, they may not be getting tons of kills. It's not like they're playing against a Ling Bane Hydra-based army, but they're still putting in so much work. As the Colossus gets abducted, we have an aggressive Blink Stalker move forward as well. So I guess ultimately that Colossus still felt quite protected. Drones pulled away from their mineral lines too to sacrifice themselves. And herO absolutely overwhelms Reynor. Alrighty, Ghost River is going to be next. Now that game we just had a look at, that's a bit of a sketchy one for Zergs. Because nothing all too crazy happened, right? Reynor had a pretty clean early game. He went up against a very standard Adept Oracle-based opener. And sure, that wasn't the perfect defense that he was hoping for, but it was also not terrible. He ended up killing quite a few Adepts. He obviously shut down a bunch of that Protoss early game too, and those Oracles were quite late. I mean, he hit a supply block, I guess, when the Overlord died, so that was a bit suboptimal. So there were a few improvements that we maybe could have seen from the Zerg across the board. But then that follow-up attack from herO, it was clearly not expected. So Reynor was trying to do the very normal, the very quick hive into a lurker transition, right? But herO apparently found an opportunity with 4 Colossi and ranged, I think it was 4 Colossi, to hit his opponent in the face right as that lurker transition is in effect. So there's about like a minute or so where those lurkers aren't quite as powerful yet, and where the Vipers don't quite have energy yet, and where Zerg may have just invested into something like, for example, Adrenal Glands, or maybe they're going into like a Greater Spire if it wouldn't be lurker play, right? There's a moment of vulnerability there as that early hive tech kicks in. And herO saw it as a yeah, he just shut that down easy peasy. Very curious to see what we're gonna have then from Reynor over here, because Ghost River has a much quicker attack path. So if Reynor decides to play the exact same strategy once again, I can imagine that herO will be more than happy to play the same build once more too, because the push from the Protoss' third to the Zerg's third is tiny. Like, it's just such a quick rush distance. I mean, the rush distance ground to ground is very quick, but the rush distance air to air is even faster. So we'll have to see. Cybercore is done. I'm expecting a Stargate. Yep. Reynor does see this immediately too, so he knows what he's playing against. So the distance here for the Stargate, yep, it is not very far whatsoever. You can just, well, fly straight from the top right to the top left, and I think it's like 29 seconds or so, if I'm not mistaken, which is basically the quickest rush distance you can have in a StarCraft map. Alrighty. Obviously, you can also knock down these rocks, by the way. Not something I've seen in a load of games yet. But if you knock down these rocks and then you kill these rocks, suddenly you appear on your opponent's side of the map. A Colossus push is going to hit very hard. Although I guess pushing up this high ground when there's like a concave of Roach Ravagers sitting over here, when you do destroy those rocks, it might be a little suboptimal. Anyways. I've noticed over the years that usually the European pro gamers, they feel very confident against Koreans. In the early days of StarCraft, the Koreans were absolute lord and master, right? Like, they absolutely destroyed every other country out there. And we even asked ourselves, like, how are the Koreans this much better? But over the last few years, it seems like, yeah, everybody agrees the Koreans are really good. But I think a lot of the European pros don't necessarily consider the Koreans that much better than the quote-unquote non-Koreans, right? Whatever that means. That always was a bit of a funky terminology to me. Whenever I first started watching StarCraft 2, whenever non-Koreans were referred to as foreigners. I think that's how the Korean community obviously talks about non-Koreans, but as an English commentator, to refer to non-Koreans as foreigners always feels a bit funky to me. But anyways, yeah, Adepts actually do find a bit of an angle. Now we have one drone going down. Whoa. One entire drone. Ooh, transfusion on the workers. That's cute. Oh no, that's bad. Okay. Yeah, no. Losing two adepts right there on Oracle for 2 drones and 11 lings is not good for Protoss whatsoever. That's actually very sloppy. As soon as he saw the drone transfusion going down, I think he should have immediately left with the Oracle. So the way transfusion works, by the way, these days is that it's a instant heal, right? So it heals for a little bit of HP. And then there is a slow heal over time effect. And this was introduced as a nerf to the Queen, to the transfusion ability. But obviously on some units, when you can hit the full health, right? You can transfuse a drone, it will hit full health with the first burst. The heal over time effect actually makes it a slight buff against that particular target. Even though we don't really see a lot of transfusions on drones, it's still kind of cute. Alrighty, so again though, these units show up so quick. Reynor currently not quite prepared actually to deal with these units, but luckily here for the Zerg, herO did not commit very deep into the base. Alrighty. Here's the additional gateways coming up together with charge and +1. Some quick additional gates, by the way. herO's still making probes for the 3rd at the very least, but we're gonna have to keep an eye out on exactly what the plan is. Because he should be able to start warping in quite a solid amount of stuff. Yeah, just a good old Oracle into Blink push is gonna hit very hard on this map too, right? Because, I mean, if the creep is not set up over here, and again, that rush distance is incredibly short, you don't really need a prism. If you can skip the prism, you can just warp in over here and send units to your main control group. I guess yeah, as a Protoss, you can very easily reinforce this, despite the fact that the map is maybe like bottom right to top left quite long, but the spawn location on this map really do work out in favor of Protoss, or at least in favor of the aggressor. Yeah, it's a shame that herO ended up losing an Oracle. Losing an Oracle really does make the game a lot harder. So we're going up to 8 gates. 8 gates. No gas is taken over at the 3rd base. Natural is wide open. That is something you do have to be a little careful of right here as you're moving out as Protoss, but Hydra Den, by the way, coming up. So it is going to be a Hydraling Bane-based army here for Reynor. If this is once again a similar Colossus attack, he is in a world of trouble. Luckily for Zerg, that is not the case. But honestly, this is still going to be a scary attack. There's a proxy pylon coming up, so apparently herO feels like he can just warp in from the middle of the map. Keep in mind that there's no Roach Warren, right? So no Ravagers here to really buy a lot of time. Lings will get their +1 upgrade in about 20 seconds. Close guess. But Zerglings are a decent choice, but you need overwhelming numbers. Hydras are coming up. Hydras are good, but again, they need their upgrades. Okay, Stasis Wards. Yeah, those Queens are having a grand old time too. Can we blink a couple of the weakened units back? This hits really hard. So Reynor this time around decided to make as many drones as he could possibly get away with. Now that Blink Stalker control is coming into the mix, drones are indeed going to be pooled. Target fire is down a few of the Hydras as well. Now Hydras are coming in from the north. So I think backing up, waiting for another round of warp-ins is not a terrible choice. Okay, it's time to knock down the rocks. Stalker numbers are getting so significant here that, yeah, we need to be able to stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder. Honestly, this is so many Stalkers here that it's going to be really difficult for Reynor to hold. I love the idea of warping in a few Adepts as well to maybe try and just create a distraction. Protoss doesn't really need to focus too much on where those Adepts go. Zerg, however, really needs to be very cautious about it. We have a mass transition right now towards a load of those Adepts. Keep in mind, there's no glaives. But I mean, I guess they still add in a lot of production, right? A lot of damage. Honestly, I think herO has just done it easy peasy. Yeah. These last 2 games. Look, game number 1, game number 2, those were very cheesy, right? But game number 3 and game number 4 were dominantly in favor of herO. Very well done. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please take the 1 second that it takes to hit the like button down below. And if you really enjoyed watching this video, you can always subscribe and also hit the notification bell so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. For now though, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile. And I hope to see you once again tomorrow for another video.